Good afternoon, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. This is Rich again, back for your second video blog of the day for Tuesday, October 28, 2014, around 3:34 p.m. Battling sun and clouds today, highs in the 60s, and it's kind of an Indian summer day. Tomorrow it's going to peak out around 70, and the temperatures will go downhill. This weekend we could have a snowstorm. Some news to report, but one thing I forgot to mention when I did the top 10 greatest Boston television male news anchors of all time, I accidentally omitted number 7. Number 7 is Ed Harding, who's the lead anchor for WCVV TV Channel 5 in Boston. He's been with Channel 5 for over 20 years as a sports reporter, anchor, and since 1999. Working for the news department, first on the morning, then late at night, and then 6 and 11. And here's the 10 list. Number 10's David Wade. Number 9's Jim Boyd. Number 8's Gene Levanchi. Number 7's Ed Harding. Number 6's Mike Nikitas. Number 5's Randy Place. Number 4's Artie Saul. Number 3's Jack Hines. Number 2's Chet Curtis. And number 1's Jack Williams. So that's an impressive list. Accidentally omitted Ed Harding, but that's okay. Those things happen. And also, some news to report. Celtics captain Rondo will be a game time decision. Rondo broke his finger on his non-through shooting hand. Hopefully he plays tomorrow because the Celtics need him. And also, 12-time Pro Bowler champ Bailey has announced his retirement after so many seasons in the NFL. That's about it on that. My next subject is about one of the most famous game shows of all time, Let's Make a Deal. Let's Make a Deal has been on the air since 1963, and it's been on all three networks, ABC, NBC, and CBS, plus in syndication. It's so popular. It's a game of chance where the contestants could win lots of good prizes or get hit by a zonk. Let's Make a Deal was created by Monty Hall, and he pitched his idea to the networks. It was a game of chance where he used it for a kind of a parlor game where he would have 3 envelopes. 2 of them were cash, 1 of them was a chicken, and the chicken was the zonk. And the networks passed on it at first. First, CBS passed on it, ABC passed on it, but NBC passed on it at the first time. But Monty Hall convinced NBC to give it another look, and they did a pilot of it, and NBC liked the pilot. So on December 30th, 1963, Let's Make a Deal made its debut on daytime on NBC, hosted by Monty Hall, produced by Stephen Hados and Monty Hall Productions. And the announcer of Let's Make a Deal for the first year was Wendell Niles, and the assistant, the model, was Carol Merrill. And Let's Make a Deal was played like this. It was contestants were all in the center row. They were all dressed in business suits, and Monty Hall would play some deals with them. Some of the game of chances, including Follow the Leader, where 3 people would be picked out as a contestant, and one of them would pick a curtain and stuff, and whatever was behind the curtain could be a prize, could be a zonk, could be anything. The other 2 got the same prize as well, and then the next person would continue to play that game, and what they picked, the curtain or the box or whatever, they got that gift. And the third one would do the same thing, but at any time they could quit and stuff and take a cash substitution. Monty Hall would always say an X amount of dollars, call off the deal. Some of them do, some of them don't, but if they get hit by a zonk, they lose everything. Another good game was played was called bankrolls. They would have a bankroll. Monty Hall would show a $50 bill bunched up together, and they would have to keep it or go for behind the curtain and stuff. If they kept the money, they get what the money could be, thousands of dollars, could be $1 bills, could be nothing. and stuff like that. Another one was collecting money, and they do it on a strip that's they collect, but at any time they could cut it and end it, but if they got nothing, they would lose it. And they would also, the biggest one was pricing items. Pricing items was usually to win a big prize like a car or a boat or a trip or whatever, and they would have the prices from lowest price to highest price, or like they would have to be off by like they would have to get like on the nose, or like $1 each way and stuff like that. The pricing thing was the elements to use for like when Price is Right was revamped in 1972, and Let's Make a Deal became very popular the first few months. Around maybe around 1964, Wendell Niles left, and Jay Stewart became the announcer, and he was the announcer for the duration of Let's Make a Deal on NBC and ABC. About like 2 months into the show on Let's Make a Deal, there was a contestant who was dressed up in a costume. All of them were in business suits or gowns and stuff, and Monty picked that contestant, and then there was a little bit uproar backstage saying, why is that contestant dressing up in costume? It's not Halloween, but there's nothing about that. But once that contestant wrote, I'm dressed up, all of them dressed up in costumes and stuff like that, and that became real popular. It shot Let's Make a Deal in the ratings and stuff, and it became the #1 television game show on daytime on NBC, and NBC had like a primetime version in 1967-68. Let's Make a Deal brought millions of dollars to NBC. But when it was up for renewal in 1968, NBC only gave a modest increase to keep the show like on the air, because they really didn't promote it that much. They really didn't care. Plus, they had other game shows like Hollywood Squares and Concentration that were promoting as hell. Monty Hall really didn't like that, so he tried to negotiate moving Let's Make a Deal to another network. He first went to CBS, but CBS was getting out of the game show business. Then he went to ABC, which was the lowest ranked network at the time, and it was nicknamed the Almost Broadcasting Company because they weren't as real popular and stuff. And ABC was okay, but they went on stronger affiliations back in the day, and ABC negotiated with Monty Hall, and for Let's Make a Deal, they open up their checkbook big time. They says any amount you want, we'll want Let's Make a Deal. Monty Hall took the deal from ABC, and then in late 1968, Let's Make a Deal moved from NBC to ABC, and NBC had like a 33 share when Let's Make a Deal was on. In the time slot they were in, ABC only had a 17 share. When Let's Make a Deal moved to ABC, ABC got the 33 share. NBC got even lower than that share. Unbelievable. And NBC lost millions of dollars in revenue for Let's Make a Deal. Lots of revenue lost, and ABC got so much revenue. The ratings of the other game shows before Let's Make a Deal, the Dating Game and the Newlywed Game, their ratings was so 50-50, but when Let's Make a Deal came on the air, the shows, they preceded them or followed them, their ratings went through the roof and stuff. ABC gave them prime time. ABC gave them millions and millions of dollars, and they also had Monty Hall hosted some variety shows and stuff like that. In 1971, Let's Make a Deal went into once-a-week syndication, and the prizes were bigger and stuff, and the zonks were even more funnier. Some of the zonks they did there were like broken down cars, animals. Jay Stewart dressed up as a baby, as like a cowboy, and other stuff. But when contestants hit zonks, they would get a prize in return. With that value of the zonk, so they got like a color TV or a stove. And also, at the end of the day, at the end of the show, there was a big deal of the day, which could be up to $5,000 or more. And Monty would ask his contestants to see if they want to trade in what they won. And they did, and sometimes the big deal of the day could have been worth as much as $5,000-$6,000, and then it was behind door number 1, door number 2, door number 3, and they would pick, and sometimes they won the big deal of the day, sometimes they didn't. And after the show was going off the air, Monty Hall made some quickie deals. Before we go off the air, do you have an unusual object or serial numbers on a license plate and a number? If they had it, they would get some extra dollars and stuff like that. And this and that. Love the quickie deals. Let's Make a Deal's ratings continue to go up and up and up on ABC daytime and syndication. But in 1974-75, they were fading because this show was kind of aging and stuff like that. The syndicated version, to help in the ratings, had like a super big deal where the contestants would like win the big deal, and they would have the chance to give up the super big deal for like what's behind three like doors. One was $20,000 and the other one was like less amounts. If they picked the $20,000, they kept what they won on the big deal and got the $20,000. But if they got the $5,000, they lost the big deal but went home with the money. And also they had some celebrities playing Let's Make a Deal on the syndicated version, but that actually brought the ratings down. And then ABC canceled Let's Make a Deal in 1976. The syndicated version filmed the last year in Las Vegas, but that got canceled as well. And first time in 14 years, Monty Hall didn't Let's Make a Deal was off the air. Reruns of Let's Make a Deal appeared in local television in Los Angeles on the CBS affiliate for a couple of years. 1980, Let's Make a Deal was revived, hosted by Monty Hall again in Vancouver, British Columbia. It was filmed in Vancouver, British Columbia, but the show was very cheap and produced, and Monty Hall had new models, Maggie Brown and Julie Hall, and the contestants didn't really get paid, and because that production company would bust. And Let's Make a Deal sit doormat for a few years. Reruns of Let's Make a Deal appeared on CBN, the 70s syndicated version, for a couple of years. 1984, Let's Make a Deal was revived in syndication, hosted by Monty Hall. It lasted 2 seasons, and announcers for the first year was Brian Cummings, and the second year Dean Goss. The models were Karen LaPierre, Amelia Visner, and this was an added feature to Let's Make a Deal was door number 4. They would play it once in a while, and it was a big wheel that a contestant would get. On the wheel was various amounts of dollar amounts, and there was a couple that had a car, but there was a couple had zonk. And if they hit the zonk, they got a t-shirt saying, "I got zonked on Let's Make a Deal by Monty Hall." This syndicated version lasted 2 years. They wanted a third season. Television stations, but Monty Hall wanted to have a talk show, a human interest show called For the People, but that didn't sell, and Let's Make a Deal ended its run for the second time, and then it reran on USA Network for a few years and stuff like that. Monty Hall revived Let's Make a Deal in 1990 with help from Dick Clark and Ross Greenberg. Originally, Dick Clark was going to host this version of Let's Make a Deal, but he saw some tapes. He said it was too much of a task for him. So, legendary game show announcer Bob Hilton hosted Let's Make a Deal, and it was filmed at MGM Studios in Orlando, Florida. NBC committed to it for daytime for 6 months, but after 3 months, NBC didn't like the ratings for it. They fired Bob Hilton as host. They asked Monty Hall to come out of retirement. He was reluctant to, but he says he had to because they didn't want to pull the plug on his show. And they got so-so ratings. And when it was time to renew the contract, Monty Hall said he wasn't interested in continuing on as host. And where it was filmed at MGM Studios, the set was destroyed, ending Let's Make a Deal again. Monty Hall brought back Let's Make a Deal as a 900 number in the 90s and stuff like that, early 90s and stuff. And then Let's Make a Deal was in reruns on Family Channel and then Game Show Network for many years. And Monty Hall was looking to revive it with a new host. Several times he tried to, but no takers. 2003, Let's Make a Deal was on primetime on NBC, hosted by Billy Bush, who's famous for hosting Access Hollywood in primetime. And it only lasted 3 episodes. Monty Hall hated this version of Let's Make a Deal because there was too many deals that were like sexual themed. He didn't like it, and the ratings 0. It wasn't good. And then Let's Make a Deal was doormatted for several more years, but Monty Hall traveled across the country hosting like Let's Make a Deal at casinos, stage shows, stuff like that. He wanted to revive in a good way. 2009, it got revived by CBS in daytime, and it's either on at 3 p.m. or 10 a.m. depends what part of the country you are, and it's hosted by Wayne Brady, and the announcer is Jonathan Magnus, and the model is Tiffany Coy. And this has been on, in this version of Let's Make a Deal, it's been on the air for over 5 years. It's pretty good. It's an hour-long show. It does the same stuff as the original Let's Make a Deal, and it's pretty good. And sometimes they win prizes, sometimes they win zonks, but they do, and it's great in the ratings. And Monty Hall's the creative consultant of this Let's Make a Deal, and he sold the rights to Let's Make a Deal to Fremantle Productions, but he still got a lot of money from selling that rights, big time. And Let's Make a Deal is one of the best game shows of all time. Some of the elements of Let's Make a Deal were on other game shows like Treasure Hunt, Press Your Luck, and Deal or No Deal. So Let's Make a Deal is like innovating in game of chances. It's one of the best of all time and still going strong after 51 years. Well, that's about it on that. I'll be back later for the third and final video blog subject of the night, which will be about my personality profile, actress, model Shelley Heck, who's famous for playing Tiffany Wells on Charlie's Angels. Have a good night, everybody. See you tonight.